All right, good morning. It is good to be back. I've been away for a couple of weeks, and at a workshop, at a orchestral conducting workshop, and I'm going to spend the next few days talking through that experience and what I learned. Everything I talk about on this channel is here to resonate with authentic, sacred presence, right? Whether I'm talking about music or the practice of meditation, any topic that comes up here is here to pull us into sacred presence. And today that's music, and specifically conducting. And I want to talk a lot about what was involved in standing in front of an orchestra. So this is the first time that I've ever done that. I've been taking some courses at the university here, conducting courses, which have been great for learning some baton stick technique. But all of the courses have been with recordings. But this was a 10-day workshop that I just got back from, where just about every day we were in front of a group, in front of an ensemble. And for 3 days we were in front of a full orchestra. And I learned so much, not just about the technique of conducting, but about what I needed to do to get out of the way. It was like a crash course in getting out of the way so that something can unfold. That's what I mean. Everything comes down to this presence. So today I'm just going to lay out kind of the calendar. What was the event like? What was the routine? How was it structured? What did we do? It's Monday morning. Over the rest of the week, I'm going to pick a topic like standing in front of an orchestra and freezing, which happened. How did I process that? Ultimately, getting to, I think, a pretty good place, but through some real challenges. So that's the plan for the week. The event, the workshop, is run by Markand Thakkar, who is a conductor, lives in Baltimore. So the event was at Towson State University in Baltimore. Although it's run by CPI, Conductor Programs International, which is Markand's organization. First off, I'm so grateful to have been included, right? He has 2 of these sessions each year, one in January and then one in June. The summer session is 10 days, the winter session is 5 days. And I went to the winter session in January, and it was fantastic. But I went as an auditor, right? I went as someone who could participate in all of the technique and the classes, but didn't get any conducting time. And at the end of that, I just knew that this is the place where I can learn what I want to learn about conducting. But it's tough because I don't have experience and I don't have a place where I'm getting experience, right? Many of the other students in the workshop are in doctoral programs, master's degree programs. They're working, they're young and talented, and they're about to embark on a career, and they're working with Markand to refine technique and really build up their presence. But look, this is what I mean by just being grateful. In April or May, I got an email from Markand saying that he had some open spots in in the program, and would I be interested in attending? And of course, yes, right? This happened during Lent. It was one of the things that happened during Lent that has really prompted a deepening of my gratitude work, gratitude process. Just being aware that God, the universe, the precipitant consciousness provides. And I don't know what will be provided, but if I am open, things will happen. Okay, so Towson, Maryland, at Towson State. Marquand, I think, has a relationship with Towson, but he taught at Peabody and conducted the Baltimore Chamber Orchestra, and he's retired from both of those now. So I rented a room in a house through Airbnb, and that turned out to be wonderful. It was about a 20-minute walk from the house to the music building. And I basically had the third floor of this house. A couple, a bit older than me, maybe in their later 60s, whereas I'm in my later 50s. But it was very comfortable and private. But it was nice to walk into a house and say hello to people in the evening. I got a routine going where I would wake up a little bit later than I do here, but I'd wake up at 10 to 5. I would do some stretching and some exercises, and then I would right away, around about 5:15, I would walk out to Starbucks, which was about 20 minutes away. Just a nice suburban Maryland walk, just down, pick up some coffee, back to my room. Andy and Scott, my hosts, hadn't woken up yet. They woke up around 7:30 or 8 each morning. So then at about 6, I would call my wife, talk to her for a few minutes, and I would drink my coffee, and I would meditate. And I was using Waking Up, as I usually do, but I would have a 20-minute session with Brother Sam Harris, and then I would sit for another 20 minutes, and I started to really immerse myself in the Psalms, and this is going to be important once the workshop picks up, right? I went there deliberately aware that I had 10 days where all I was going to do was music. I had my phone with me, so I had all my work stuff like Teams and emails and Outlook. But I really wanted to really be serious about not being distracted, not watching YouTube videos, not distracting myself. So I had a copy of Leaves of Grass, and I had the Bible and a couple of books on my Kindle. And I just got immersed in the Psalms. I'll talk about this later in the week, but Psalm 27 has a verse, whatever one of the verses, 4, 5, 6, 7, can't remember. The one thing I ask of the Lord, that which I desire most of all, I'm paraphrasing, right, is to live in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, delighting in his perfection, meditating in his temple. That space opened up. Now, I didn't start with that. That came through the week, particularly after my my freezing. It's like, how do I get over this? But that's how I would start my day, with Whitman, There's some wonderful stuff that came up in Whitman about what it is to be ordained in the hour, in the self, and the Psalms, and then the selflessness practice of Sam Harris. This was a really wonderful brew to be immersed in. So I got there late Monday evening. The weekend before, my daughter had come to Pittsburgh. It was actually my wife's birthday party, so she came out for that. And then Monday morning, she was driving back to Philadelphia, and I figured I would catch a ride with her. So got into Philadelphia, and then I had a train from Philly down to Baltimore. I have to say that train corridor is intoxicating in its availability and simplicity. There were a few times I went back and forth between Baltimore and Philly. You can just kind of show up at the station. There's, I don't know, half a dozen trains an hour, and it takes a little bit over an hour. It's wonderful. Anyway, so I got into Towson around 9:30, 10 o'clock Monday. Tuesday was registration, introduction. And the first 3 or 4 days, hours a day spent on beat technique. So Mark End is very focused, very intense on a relaxed, clear beat that maintains a connection to the sound. And one way of looking at his instruction, his direction, is that whatever else you do, with or without a baton, with or without interpretive gestures, the thing to do is to have a beat that is connected to the music. And that we as conductors are the most influential person on the stage, but we are just one of many, and we are conducting the sound and not the players, and we are relaxed so that we can absorb and respond to the sound. And by the end of the workshop, this was really starting to sink in. But throughout the workshop, but particularly in the first couple of days, we would spend hours a day with these different exercises that, if you were to look at them, they looked a little bit like Tai Chi, except that they had a real beat to it, preparation and beat. So my routine also included some dietary thinking. So I decided I would focus on one meal a day. So when I left the house in the morning, if I went straight, it would, like I say, about 20 minutes to the arts building. But if I went down in the same direction as the Starbucks, but instead of making a right to go to Starbucks, go straight, there's a Whole Foods. So I'd go there and pick up a bunch of prepared stuff, and I ate more meat and protein in that 10 days than I often do. But I would get chicken or salmon and a little side salad, put it in my travel bag, and then at the lunch break, that's what I would eat. But that would be my meal for the day, and I had my water bottle, so I was drinking. So I had good habits around sustenance. Right? I was being lean and hydrated, two of the three pillars of my rule of life. And if you recall, although lean and hydrated do refer to specific consumption, they also mean, being lean means being moderate in all things, including information intake. It means being balanced and centered in everything. And hydrated means not just being consuming enough liquid, it means being open and available. And both of these were really important. Tuesday, Wednesday, also a lot of analysis, right? So Marquand teaches conducting technique, but the conducting approach is to shape the energy of the piece. So what is the energy of the piece? So we looked at some very basic melodies and pieces, a Mozart divertimento and a Schumann piano piece, to really scrutinize the different levels of energy, kind of the immediate phrases, and then where the next layer peaks are, and then ultimately where's the peak of the piece, because as the conductor, really the thing that we can introduce is to help shape those energy points through the piece. I mean, look, we saw this several times. If the conductor was up there and working on something, sometimes Marquand would say, "Okay, don't conduct. Orchestra, play that section without the conductor." And these are all professional, very good musicians who know the music. They can just sit and it sounds great. So what do we as a conductor bring to that and help improve that instead of just get in the way of that? Thursday, we were small ensemble, a Mozart divertimento. There were always two sessions, one in the morning, one in the evening, with a video review in the afternoon where we sat with Marquand and went over the most recent work and any suggestions that come from that. I did okay with the divertimento, but even with my limited experience, it's hard to mess that up. Friday was rough. Friday was dedicated to Stravinsky, L'Histoire de Soldat, and I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. I lost the pulse whenever they played. I followed the offbeat with the big bass drum in the section that I was working on. I ended up actually not being able to move. Marquand suggested I just clap the beat, which I got through doing that, but zero musicality, zero capability, zero structure. It was very difficult. I'm okay being, boy, this is going on long, so thank you for listening. I'm going to keep going another 5-10 minutes. I'm really okay being untrained. This is new, right? I'm 57 and I'm learning how to conduct. But the story I tell myself is that I have sort of an innate musicality that will show through. And what happened on Friday is that there was nothing there. So not only was I untrained, I was also unprepared, which, that's helpful to know now, the degree that you really need to know the score. Marquand has us conduct from memory. Yeah, for the L'Histoire, we could have the score, but it didn't help. So I understood that despite the time I'd spent preparing, I really was unprepared. And I felt unmusical. But that's where the Psalms really came alive, because when you pray with the Psalms, David, the psalm writer, the poet, brings every emotion, including shame and embarrassment, and brings it into prayer. And the Lord responds. And I felt that. Friday evening as I sat in my room. I couldn't just ruminate and stew on it. I couldn't let myself. But I had to know how to get beyond it. So then Saturday, actually no ensemble work. It was a career day, so we had mock interviews and discussions with someone who does consulting work for orchestras. Less relevant for me in a way because I don't expect to be hired as a music director for an orchestra because I'm 57 years old, and that's, not a great investment. As we were talking, though, what I found out from Henry and from Mark End is that there's a real opportunity to be a managing director, not the music director, but the managing director. So the executive role in an orchestra. And I may pursue that. I could see 3 to 5 to 7 years from now, with my books in order from where I work today, retiring, but moving into, a small but professional orchestra somewhere. That would be very satisfying as an executive director, and then do that for 10, 15 years. Like that would be okay. And if my vision is to conduct music in order to promote authentic presence, well, I don't need to do a series of 10 concerts or 16 concerts. I just need to do 1 or 2 a year. And if I, as the managing director of an orchestra, if I were to say, hey, I want to bring some musicians in for a side project, personal vanity project, there would be people who would do that. So that's something to think about. That was Saturday. And I had taken the train up to Philadelphia because all the career stuff was on Zoom. My daughter lives in Philly. So I went up there early in the morning. We had breakfast. I stayed on Zoom for the afternoon, had some dinner, and then took the train back to Baltimore on Saturday evening. It was great. Okay, then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday is the core. That's where we have the full orchestra. We worked on 3 pieces, 1 movement each. Gustav Holst, St. Paul's Suite. I conducted the intermezzo, which is a beautiful slow movement, although not as slow as I had been conducting. We'll talk about that later. Mozart 40. I did the 4th movement. Did okay on that. You did okay on both of the Mozart. Day 3 was Schumann 3rd Symphony. It's a big piece. And I had told Mark, and even before the session, I'm wrapping up today, but I'm going to talk more about this because it was really key. I told him I was having a hard time memorizing any of the movements. And we agreed I would focus on the exposition of the first movement, which is still 4 or 5 minutes of music. Plenty to work on. So I did that, and then, as agreed, got to the end of the exposition and stopped. And he just said, keep going. Well, so in retrospect, it's a great pedagogical trick. But at the time, I said, I haven't prepared anything. I don't know what's happening. He said, yeah, keep going. Listen to what the musicians are doing. And you can see where this is going. At the end of the movement, for sure, I was all over the place. I was loud when it should have been soft. I missed entries. But I kept the beat. And as far as influencing and interacting with the music, it was far and away the best work I'd done. I had set aside the expectations because I didn't have any. I had worked over the weekend to bring my conducting into that worshipful space, no matter what the music. And then Markin pushed me into the unknown. And it's true. The musicians know what they're doing. So what do I need to do? Well, that goes back to the analysis. I need to have a vision of the energy of the piece. Not what second clarinet note are they playing in the 53rd measure of the second movement. Although, for sure, a conductor should know that. But what I really need to know is 90 seconds from now is a point that we need to get to. It's not the point of the music, the piece yet, but it's an important step. I need to understand that and know how to shape towards it. Am I doing that? No, no. But I felt after that I have a good basic connection to the sound and an understanding of what is needed. And what is needed is presence, which is exactly what we talk about here all the time. Whether it's conducting an orchestra, whether it's what I'm about to do, which is take my dogs for a walk and then log in to work for 10 hours. Whether it's writing music, whether it's being a husband, whatever. Sacred presence is the only reliable, only necessary commitment. And everything is there to experience, to cultivate, to share that value. So, 26 minutes, that's a lot. Tomorrow I'm going to talk more about the separation of, or the recognition of the small mind self, which was anxious and worried and disappointed, and the larger presence, which is what needs to be there in order to be able to be musical, which in turn is, I think, a corollary or a resonant overtone of being present to the mystery of creation. Oh yeah, that's right. So, if you are not a subscriber, I've got to say this, right? If you've listened to this for 27 minutes and aren't a subscriber, you should subscribe. And you should also find one more person who you think would be interested in this, and then go ahead and share it. So, thank you, and keep your wits about you.